As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner YouGov offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more.
Let me just get caught up here. Stuart says, are a number of the games on the way down in popularity and therefore Microsoft going to have to invest to rejuvenate a lot of the content which carries risk of failure to improve subscription numbers in Game Pass? I mean, Stuart, it's a great question. I think obviously, like if they put WoW on Game Pass, that's going to drive a huge number of subscribers, right? There's no question you get a few million subscribers immediately, which are all the existing, WoW players. But I also think you would get people who see a lot of more value in Game Pass if you put something like that there. The question is, and let me just rephrase your question so I can ask it to everyone here is, will Microsoft help Activision Blizzard get back to making games? And Jeff, you just mentioned, obviously some of the struggles that are created by being in limbo for a year here before this deal actually closes. But, what do we think Microsoft's chances are of being able to restore sort of Activision Blizzard's place from a game development standpoint? And I don't mean King, even though mobile is important, but really more Blizzard here in terms of restoring that development studio to its former glory. Can Microsoft do it?
Lindsay, you go.
Yeah, I really feel like there's just a lot riding on Phil Spencer's shoulders and on his reputation. I mean, everyone believes he's the man who can get things done, and he has a proven track record. There's a reason why people believe that, so this is not a knock on him. But there's just a lot of this deal, I feel like, is riding on his ability to manage all of these various things, which I think he has the ability to do, but he's also only one person. So I'm curious to see the role that they have him playing in that, and how the expectations of him will play into how people actually work on these games. I think it could be a good motivator too.
The problem is we're lacking a data point, right? Because we don't really know if Bethesda has really seen a turnaround internally, right? Like we haven't seen any great new game from them since they were bought by Microsoft. So I feel like that's one data point. If we had it, I think there'd be a lot more comfort in saying, oh, okay, we saw the Microsoft playbook with Bethesda. They're just going to apply it here. I'm not sure if that playbook exists. I have lots of faith in Phil Spencer, but we haven't really seen much from Bethesda, have we? That was a big acquisition. And other than, some nice ads on TV going, we're better together. I don't know what's come out of that. That causes a bit of concern in my mind that maybe Microsoft doesn't have the magic touch with game development studios. Jimmy, sorry.
No, you're good. Bethesda did announce that Starfield release date for the end of this year that I'm looking forward to. You got a space age RPG, but they're good points. I just think that they're not necessarily deserved because these aren't like indie publishers. This isn't an acquisition of a mid-tier or a small tier, company that you're going to need to hold their hand and bring them across the line. These guys have put out massive it's a multi-billion-dollar property. They've put out these massive titles where I don't think it's going to require the amount of hand-holding that this discussion is kind of indicating. I think you're going to have to replace a lot of the people that left during that exodus. I think that's going to be easy to do because of the attractiveness of Microsoft and of Phil, where even if he's not directly running certain, micromanaging certain things, that he can attract that talent the way a coach for a popular D1, football program in college will attract that talent. And then you wind them up and they kind of run themselves. The more interesting part, or personally where I think the discussion is and where the interest is how does this integrate with Microsoft's other properties? It's not whether or not they're going to have another good game. I think that's a given. I think it's how else is this going to play out through, how else are they going to monetize this IP? For me, that's like the unknown. Because again, I think it's a given that they're going to put out good titles.
Well,
yeah,
I think one thing's for sure
Microsoft, right? It's not like we're not talking about Disney buying Activision Blizzard, right? Like, what's the last time Microsoft put out a Netflix like hit?
That's Jeff? Why I think this. Oh, Jeff, go for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one thing for sure, we're going to see a lot more games coming out. Like, I don't think you're going to like Activision. You have to remember has a ton of IP that's not being utilized. Because, and I think, to Bobby's credit, he did what he had to do to squeeze out earnings and near term kind of strong return on capital. And the stock, again, to give him credit, when he bought the company in 1990, he bought it for $400,000. He's selling it 2022 for $70 billion. So like incredible capital allocator. But I think there's a ton of unused IP that now that you have Game Pass and you have Microsoft with a ton of resources, I think you're going to see things like Tony Hawk come back. I know Activision just did they did a re-release of that, but you'll see more of that. You'll see Crash Bandicoot come out. You'll see, I'm sure you guys could name 20 other Activision IPs. One of the things I saw in an interview that Bobby did with GamesBeat that I thought was interesting, he talked about how he, in the last couple of years, had really wanted to remake Guitar Hero. And he was frustrated that, he didn't feel like he had the resources to kind of do that just because of the hardware that was necessary in the supply chain and the manufacturing and the chip shortages. But his comment was like, at a studio like Microsoft, you could go do something like that because you have those resources. He said the same thing about Skylanders, which I thought was interesting, that a company like Microsoft would be a lot better positioned to take that IP forward versus Activision. And I just thought those comments were notable because I think a lot of times Bobby gets this sort of rep of a guy who doesn't care about games or is just ruthless in killing IP and, killing games and studios. And maybe the reality is he's making business decisions for shareholders that he maybe regrets from a personal perspective or like, from a nostalgia and loving games perspective, but knows he has to do it from a business perspective. I think under Microsoft, some of those choices could maybe be different based on the economics.